The Israelites spent 430 years in Egypt, most of it under oppression as slaves. But now God has punished Pharaoh for his mistreatment of his people and has brought them out of Egypt under the leadership of Moses by parting the Red Sea, allowing the Israelites to escape the incoming armies of Egypt. The sea has come crashing down upon the Egyptian army, and they now stand outside of Egypt in safety. Now what? The Israelites begin to wander into the desert wilderness of Sinai. They spend 3 days without finding any water. On the third day, they finally come across a pool of water, but it's too bitter for them to drink. They begin to grumble against Moses about this lack of water, and so Moses prays to Yahweh, who shows him a piece of wood that Moses throws into the water, and the bitterness is removed and the people can drink. From there, they move on for a little bit, and they come across an area that had 12 springs, and so camp there. But as they leave the springs and head towards the mountain that Moses was to take them, the people start to grumble again. If only Yahweh had destroyed us in Egypt, when we were surrounded by meat and ate all the food that we wanted. But we have been brought into the desert to starve to death. So Yahweh brought them manna, a wafer-like substance that tasted like honey that would appear on the ground every morning. They were to gather enough for them to eat for that day, and then the next day more would appear. Except on the Fridays, they were to gather 2 portions, 2 days worth, because then they wouldn't have to gather any on the Sabbath the next day. So this is what they ate. But as they continued to move through, they grumbled once again about the lack of water. So Yahweh told Moses to strike a rock with his staff, and when he did so, water came pooling out, and the people were able to drink. And so Yahweh cared for his people and provided for them in the wilderness. As they drew near the place where Moses had lived when he had fled from Pharaoh, Moses' father-in-law Jethro came out to visit. He saw that Moses was busy all day handling the disputes amongst the people. Jethro told Moses that it was not wise for him to carry this burden on his own, and instead to find other wise people to judge disputes and put them in charge of smaller groups of people. If there was a dispute that they couldn't handle, then that could be passed up to Moses to handle. Moses saw that this was a good idea and employed it. Jethro blessed Moses and returned back home. Finally, the people came to the mountain to where they were to hear from Yahweh. And Yahweh told Moses to prepare the people, for he was coming down on the mountain and down onto the mountain in a cloud. They were to consecrate and purify themselves to be in Yahweh's presence. And so the people did. They consecrated and purified themselves in anticipation of Yahweh's coming. 3 days later, thunder boomed, shaking the ground upon which they stood, and lightning flashed across the sky. A thick cloud descended upon the mountain, and the people trembled in fear. Moses led the people out of the camp to the base of the mountain. They could not see the top of it, for smoke billowed so thickly as Yahweh descended in fire. The people were not to go up the mountain, not that they wanted to, they were so afraid. But instead Moses went up and spoke to Yahweh on behalf of the people. And during that time with Yahweh, Moses was given the law to deliver to the people. It is here at Sinai that Israel is transformed from a people into a nation. The core of this law is the 10 Commandments, or the Decalogue, with other laws coming out of the experience of Israel as they try to navigate this new reality they find themselves in. The Decalogue is introduced by the relationship that Yahweh has with Israel and gives the basis for why they are to do what they are to do and how they are to live according to this law. He says, I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. It is because they have been rescued by Yahweh that they are to follow this law. The first 4 commandments deal with their relationship with God. 1, have no other God. 2, do not worship idols. 3, do not misuse Yahweh's name. And 4, observe the Sabbath, the day to rest in the delight of Yahweh. The other 6 deal with their relationships with one another. The 5, honor your parents. 6, do not murder each other. 7, do not commit adultery. 8, do not steal from one another. 9, do not lie about one another. And 10, do not desire the possessions of one another. Having received this, Moses descends the mountain and tells the people these laws he had received from Yahweh, to which the people respond together, everything Yahweh has said we will do. They offered sacrifices to Yahweh and thus entered into covenant with God. They would be Yahweh's people and Yahweh would be their God. Moses entered the cloud at the top of the mountain once again, and Yahweh wrote his commandments out on stone tablets for Moses. And while Moses was up on the mountain again, he received detailed instructions in making a tabernacle, a tent of worship, in which the presence of Yahweh will dwell. Yahweh desires to dwell amongst his people, and so gives a way in which this can be accomplished. Israel will be able to look at the tabernacle in the middle of their camp and know that Yahweh, the God who brought judgment upon Egypt, that split the Red Sea in two for them to cross over, and who has appeared on Mount Sinai in fire and lightning and thunder, dwells in their midst and is on their side. The gold and silver that they got from the Egyptians is to be used to create elements of worship in the tabernacle. And the people donate so much of this gold and silver that Moses has to tell them to stop bringing it because they have enough already. But as Moses is receiving these instructions for a space of worship and dwelling of and for Yahweh, there was something else that was going on in the camp. Moses had been up the mountain for a long period of time, and the people did not know what had happened to him. So they went to Aaron and told him to make them gods to lead them to the place that they were going. Aaron tells them to bring them all their gold earrings and jewelry that their wives and their children are wearing. And Aaron takes all this gold and he fashions it into the shape of a calf. And when he had finished, he brought it out and placed it on top of the altar that they had built and announced, "These are your gods, Israel, that brought you up out of Egypt. Tomorrow we will hold a festival to the Lord." Now Yahweh knew what was occurring and said to Moses, "Go down to your people. They have been corrupt and have made themselves a god that they are bowing down to and sacrificing, claiming that it is what brought them out of Egypt. This is a stiff-necked people. Leave me now so that my anger may burn and I can destroy them. And out of you I will make a great nation." But Moses interceded with Yahweh, telling him that if he was to wipe out Israel, then Egypt and the nations in Canaan will believe that Yahweh brought them out into the wilderness just to destroy them. He calls on him to remember his promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Yahweh relents and does not bring disaster upon them. Moses comes down with the tablets of the law and sees the people worshiping and dancing around the golden calf, and Moses burns with anger. He threw down the tablets, smashing them. He took the calf and he burnt it, and then he ground it into a fine powder, scattering it across the water that they drink and forcing them to drink it, and many become ill from this. And then he turns to Aaron and asks, "What do these people do to you that caused you to lead them into such a great sin?" And Aaron said, "Don't be angry with me. They asked me to make gods for them. I just took their gold and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf." And Moses saw that the people were running wild and worshiping this calf, and Aaron had lost complete control. And so he stood at the entrance of the camp and shouted, "Whoever is for Yahweh, come to me." And the tribe of Levi came and gathered around him, and they went into the camp, killing those worshiping the calf, with 3,000 Israelites dying. Moses went to a tent he had set up to meet with God and interceded again on behalf of the people. The Israelites stripped themselves of their fine jewelry and mourned for their actions. And Yahweh re-enters into covenant with them. And so the tabernacle is built according to the previous specifics that Yahweh had told Moses. And once it is completed and consecrated, the glory of Yahweh came and filled the tabernacle with such power that not even Moses could enter the tent. Yahweh was now dwelling amongst his people in the wilderness and guiding them to the promised land. This is the climax of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. The law is given by God to Moses, and the Israelites enter into covenant with God. The rest of the Pentateuch deals with the outworking of these laws: Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The Genesis and Exodus narratives come along and show the framework from which these laws are built. If you venture to read much of the laws in Exodus and Leviticus, so many of them say, do such and such a thing, or don't do such and such a thing, because you were slaves in Egypt and I rescued you. It is because of Israel's experience as slaves and Yahweh's saving acts that Israel is to live out these laws that God is giving. It is an act of worship and faithfulness and gratitude to Yahweh, as well as a way to build healthy community. So many of their laws to deal with slaves were much more lenient and filled with grace than their surrounding cultures, and it's because of their experience as slaves in Egypt that Yahweh had freed them from. Now, near the end of our story, there are a couple of interesting pieces. We have a large portion devoted to describing how the tabernacle is to be built in chapters 25 to 31 of Exodus, and then a description of how it was built to those specifications in chapters 33 to 40. And right in between is the famous golden calf episode. Now, when calling for donations for the tabernacle, the people gave so generously that Moses had to restrain them from giving because they had too much for the project. And then we see a proper display of worship as the tabernacle is described to us in painstakingly detailed descriptions. But each element represents proper relationship with Yahweh. And the tabernacle itself is to be a sign that Yahweh dwells amongst his people and is guiding them. We are then interjected with a great barrier that comes up. The tabernacle has been described but not yet built. The building hasn't even started yet. And Moses has been on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and the people grow restless. So a story of improper worship or idolatry breaks in on the tabernacle narrative and threatens to cause the whole thing to collapse. Just as the people gave gold for the tabernacle, now they give gold for this idol. The nation of Israel has just been formed and is already facing annihilation because of it breaking the covenant it had only just recently signed. And Moses intercedes, and the people are saved, but still punished. And so the tabernacle is then built, and Yahweh fills the tabernacle and dwells with his people. The structure of the narrative shows both sides of the pendulum of worship. Proper, holy worship is worship of Yahweh in accordance with his holiness, and improper idolatrous worship comes from the decision of the people to worship a physical thing they have made. The other interesting thing we see in the golden calf episode is the interaction of Moses interceding on behalf of Israel to God. Yahweh declares that he is going to wipe out Israel and restart with Moses, but Moses confronts God. And I'll read you what Moses says from the New International Version of the Exodus passage. Yahweh, why should your anger burn against your people, whom you brought out of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say, it was with evil intent that he brought them out, to kill them in the mountains and to wipe them off the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce anger, relent, and do not bring disaster on your people. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, to whom you swore by your own self, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and I will give your descendants all this land I promised them, and it will be their inheritance forever. Bold yet confrontational words from Moses to God. And the amazing thing is that Yahweh relented and did not bring this disaster upon Israel because of Moses' intercession. And it is important to note that it is because of Moses' close and intimate relationship with Yahweh that he's able to speak like this to him and have him relent. Yahweh says to Moses to leave him be so that he may destroy Israel. But why does Moses have to leave in order for Yahweh to wipe them out? Moses' presence does not diminish Yahweh's ability to destroy Israel. But really it's Yahweh doing a hold me back moment. You know when a guy, and let's be honest, it's 99% of the times it is a man, is trying to give the impression that he wants to fight but doesn't really want to fight. And so he has his buddy hold him back from attacking the other person. Often as he yells, hold me back, bro. Yahweh's inviting Moses to hold him back from his wrath. And because Moses knows God so deeply, he recognizes this and intercedes on behalf of the people. The book of Numbers calls Moses the most humble man on the face of the earth. And it's because of moments like these that he is considered as such. He is given the opportunity to be the guy, the new Abraham. And yet he turns down this massive promotion for the sake of his people. His prayers are for Israel and not for his own well-being. And this is the relationship that we seek with Yahweh. To know him and not just know about him. Knowing about him is cramming our head with information and theology. Not necessarily a bad thing, but not nearly as important and as good of a thing as knowing him, which means being in deep relationship with him so that we know what to pray for, when to pray for it, and to be powerful intercessors for creation. Being drawn deep into the love and presence of God allows us to live our lives and have our lives glow as Moses' face radiated with the glory of God when he spent such time with him. And this is the kind of relationship God is desiring to have with us. He wants us to know.